Welcome to the second episode of this Let's Code Along series. On the first episode we just set up the project and added some containers to our little cooking game. Today I was thinking we were going to add some touch input to the iPhone in order to register touch on the game object. To make sure we actually can register touch on the game object, we have to set up Unity to be able to work on a phone or be testable on a phone. In order to do that, we're going to go here into File and Build Settings and make sure you have either iOS or Android, depending on what smartphone you want to use. I'm going to use an iPhone for this series, hence I have chosen iOS. After that, just make sure you download the Unity Remote app on App Store or Google Play. Once you've done that, you have to make sure of a few things. Regarding iPhone, at the very least, I can't answer for Android as I don't have an Android phone. If you have an iPhone, you have to make sure that iTunes is running and the iPhone is connected to the computer. Once that's done, you go into Edit and then you go to Project Settings and you look in the editor under Unity Remote. You choose your desired phone or any iOS device if you prefer that. Once that's done, you pick up your phone, open up your app and press play. And that should do the trick. On my phone it is running. Hopefully if you're trying to do the same, it does on your phone too. That's how you set up an Unity Remote with an iPhone at the very least. Now let's continue with the project. So the first thing we need to do is to add a box collider to the food object. We do this in order to make sure we can register the input when the food object is being touched on the iPhone. After we've added a box collider to the food object, we're going to go into Visual Studio, into our code, and simply make sure that we can connect to our collider. So we're going to add the collider to our script. Simply add a box collider 2D, I'm going to call it col, and we're going to instantiate this box collider in the await method as we want to be able to use it straight away. So col equals this, meaning this game object, the food object that we're touching, dot get component type of box collider 2D, and that's it. I'm using this keyword in order to make sure that I'm using this game object, as we're going to make a prefab of this later on and it will instantiate over and over again. In order to make sure we don't create a game object that doesn't have a box collider, we're going to copy this with Ctrl D, and instead of a rigid body, we're gonna make sure a box collider is a required component. After we've done that, we're simply going to add the update function to our class. Here we can put our touch code in order to register the touch. We're going to do this by start with a simple if statement. So if input dot touch count is bigger than 0, this means that we register at least one touch, which means we can use this touch. We can work with multiple touch at the same time or multiple touch counts too, but for now we're just gonna use this one touch. After we've created this if statement, we're gonna add a touch component and we will call it touch that's equal to the input dot get touch, and then we're going to use the first touch we got. We're going to add a touch position too. This touch position will help us out when we move the food object later on. We're going to create a vector 2 as we're in a 2D space. We're going to call this touch pos, and that is going to be instantiated with the camera dot main. So we get the main camera, convert it to screen to world point, and we're going to convert the touch dot position and end it. So we get the touch from our input, the first touch, and we use that touch to gather the position and store it in a vector2 variable. I will use a switch statement instead of an if-else statement in order to go through the touch phases. So we're going to use our touch variable and get the phase of the touch, the first touch we have, and we're going to create cases based on this touch. So we start with a touch phase that began. So when the touch began, we're going to do some stuff later on, and we end or we close this case. Now, for the sake of making it easy for us, we're going to copy this 3 times, as we're going to be working with 3 different touch phases. The second one is when we move our finger, and the last one is when the touch ended, when we lift our finger from the screen. So in order to make sure this works, we will simply create a debug.log statement here, and we can print out that the touch is working. Alright, so how this is going to work is that when we use our finger to touch the game object or the food object on our phone, we're going to see this debug.log statement printing out in the console. So we simply go back to Unity and we're going to test this out. And as we began this video with setting up the phone to work with Unity, we can simply press play and touch the game object. And that was a little too quick. I didn't have time to actually press the food object. So I think we're going to remove the gravity scale here in order to make the food object stand still. So let's try this again. So for some reason it isn't printing out the debug.log message, which is weird. Oh, but it isn't really, because we haven't added the scripts yet to our food object. Alright, let's move it up here. Now it should work. And this is a beginner's mistake, which I tend to do a lot. If you press play and then change things in the game object or add new things, it will disappear when you stop playing the game. Keep that in mind. Always make sure you stop playing the game and then add the objects you want. So now we added it again. I'm going to test it out and touch the object. And now it's printing out the debug.log statement. And that's simply what we were going to do today. I hope you will have a good day and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.